You want to get into stand-up? How about songwriting? Why not both? Take some inspiration from The Supergroup, a podcast hosted by Tawny Newsome and Alex Kilner. They put together comedians and musicians going step by step through the process of drafting, recording, and re-recording a song. They've had on Open Mike Eagle, Ted Leo, Paul F. Tompkins, Janet Varney, and plenty of other creative peeps to make real songs. And the podcast is pretty hilarious too. The Supergroup is available only on Stitcher Premium. For a free month of Stitcher Premium, go to stitcherpremium.com/supergroup and use promo code POCKET. We don't have the theme to music here, so we'll just go on ahead. The Galaxy Note 9 has a hard road ahead of it. It has to make up ground in sales from the Galaxy S9, and it will have to do so with few visceral upgrades. So, what can Samsung do to prop up the biggest chance it has against the iPhone? Put Fortnite on it. The world's most popular MMO is coming to Android, and it looks set to debut on a phablet. More on that in just a moment. We'll dig into a couple of follow-up stories as well on the MacBook Pro and BlackBerry Key 2. Plus, we chew on the bitter pill for everyone in technology. That is the tariffs tussle between the United States and China. The questions here: how much will your next grade cost? How much will your next upgrade cost you, and will you be able to afford it? Plenty of questions to answer. We've got a bunch of tech rascals to give our best shot at answering them. From Pocketnow and XDA developers, it's episode 315 of the Weekly, recorded at 3 p.m. Eastern on Friday, the 27th of July, 2018. This is the show that delves into everything that moves and is technology, from smartphones to tablets and wearables. It's the stuff you probably couldn't make up even in your wildest imaginations as a kid. I'm Jules Wong, producer of this podcast, and for one more episode, the host, favorite XDA pal, Brandon Miniman. Hello to you.
Hello and happy Friday. It's almost happy hour, right?
Yeah, 5 o'clock somewhere, right? Always got to be searching for that clock to just move the hand over. Let's go on to our favorite martial arts specialist. What's going on, Joshua Vergara?
What's going on, everybody? I would really stop short of saying specialist. Let's just put it that way. I appreciate the kind words, though, in that regard.
I mean, you have to be showing off all your skills, man. It's not just the personal brand. It's also the services that you can provide to a whole bunch of people, but be it enforcing or protecting or whatnot. Let's go over, finally, to the guy who's on our YouTube channel the most often. It's Jaime Rivera. How's your day so far?
Still have 535.
Everybody's scrambling here. Are we online?
Yes, we are online. We are live. We are here. Samuel Martinez, our guy who runs the Spanish side of our video operations as well, is just appearing behind Jaime for a second as he tries and shoots a couple of clips.
I had to switch between like 3 hotspots right now. Hello, how are you? I'm in Honduras. We sometimes lose connectivity here, which is the funniest thing. Third world. Thank you.
As we were saying while we were getting set up for all of this, it's one of those Fridays.
Yeah. And saying just now, Jaime has disappeared off the earth again. So
he'll be back. He'll be in and out today.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully. You have to cross your fingers for just a bit here. There he is.
This is the worst. This is the worst. Just keep going, guys.
It happens.
All right. Sorry. Yeah, we'll try and see what we can do. We'll be able to salvage things and make sure that we can get the latest out to you guys in terms of the news and some hot takes as well. We certainly would like to hear your hot takes on the Twitters. Your thoughts, your questions, whatever you want in there, we'll answer them. Joshua is covering the YouTube side of things in terms of chat, and hopefully we'll be able to see what's going on over there. He'll be able to chime in with your relayed thoughts as well. And if you can't make it live here on this program, then definitely write us still. Podcast@pocketnow.com is the way to go for emails. So any way that you can contact us and would like to contact us, then please do so. All right, so I'm going to defer to Brandon Miniman for a second here, as he has a continuation of a thought thread that he made yesterday about the BlackBerry Key 2. He's been mulling over what Joshua has been saying in its defense. So go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, so Josh, no, I think this is kind of like me joining your side, but I've been thinking, I've been thinking a lot about what you said about the Key 2 last week. And you described very eloquently how you utilize keyboard shortcuts to like copy and paste and then quickly move between apps with the speed key, and how the keyboard allows you to type with greater confidence and accuracy. And then it dawned on me that the Key 2 is something to be achieved, something to master. It's like an instrument that you need to learn how to play by spending time with all of its features and capabilities, embracing its quirks. And by doing so, you end up with an experience that is in a lot of ways better than your typical candy bar phone. So in light of that realization, I'm giving the Key 2 another chance. You really had an effect on me.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the punchline. Wait, that was it? There's no punchline?
No, I'm giving it another chance. I love the way he described how quickly he moves around, how he uses Command C and Command V for copy and paste. Is it Command?
There's a lot of text that goes into a lot of places for me. So like that's my thing. Like especially if you're doing socials every single day, you're typing a lot and you have to copy it from one place to another. I do use Buffer for all of my social stuff, but still, like I have to do YouTube descriptions and all that stuff. So it really helps in that regard. And also emails. I mean, pretty much every email you guys on this panel have ever gotten from me, or in the last like month or so, has been off the Key 2. So
interesting. So you don't use Gmail. You prefer to use the BlackBerry Hub email solution.
No, I 100% use Inbox by Gmail.
Okay,
and mainly because of its trips function. That's the best thing in the world to me.
It's so nice how they do that.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Agreed.
So I use Inbox. I have used the Hub as an easy way of just seeing all of my social media like notifications and whatnot, but that's about it. So.
But here's the thing, like BlackBerry the other day. I'm big on Instagram stories, and I watch a lot. I watch all your Instagram stories, by the way, Josh, and just about everybody's. And BlackBerry the other day posted one where they were like, "What's most important to you, battery life or camera?" I'm like, "Why are you asking this? Isn't it both?"
I know why they're asking it.
I know, and it's the poor camera on the Key 2, man. Like, really? Like, what? I wouldn't mind a bad camera if this was like a $200 phone.
What does one have to do with the other?
Exactly.
You can have both. You can have both in so many phones: battery life and camera.
You know what the worst part is? That the Honor 7X is worth just $200, and it takes better photos than the Key 2.
Did you see the Honor 7X is on sale for like $160 now until the end of July? That's crazy. Crazy.
Yep.
These prices are gonna feel like a dream compared to everything we're about to talk about on this podcast.
It's like free. It's like a free phone compared to the other phones.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just bracing myself for what's to come in the next several months here, but I think we should all be grateful for what we have currently. And in terms of what we have for keyboard phones, especially if you're that kind of person that just keeps on typing and typing away, then I think you might have to deal with what you get here. So,
or just dual wield, just saying.
Or dual wheel. Yeah, if you can afford that life, which if you probably are going
how
around.
do you fit that thing in your pocket, by the way? That like
pop socket?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Everyone has one. Like, have you really committed yourself to a pop socket? Because I tried it for like a month and I'm like, this gets caught on my pocket. Screw this thing. Like, I
don't really have that issue too often, but I guess I'm more cognizant of it after using it for so long. I've been a pop socket advocate for so long. But this will help for the creatives in the room right now. Having this here and being able to lay it down because of the kickstand, this is your second monitor for your camera.
Oh, totally. That's great. And I prefer the ones that are actually more like ring pulls instead of the socket thing, because
the rings pull on my finger. I'm not a big fan. Like, this is so much more comfortable to me.
I mean, to each their own, I'll say.
Yes, agreed.
Hey, back in the day, there were some phones that had built-in kickstands. That was
HTC
cool.
phones, man.
HTC, Evo 4G,
Evo 4G.
whatever the heck it
It was
was.
the Evo
Yeah, but you
4G,
couldn't. Yeah, but you couldn't put your hand in the kickstand. Like,
I guess. Just hold on to
Uh,
it. Josh, and you don't.
As much as I would like to talk about kickstands here for the next hour,
Sorry,
we are running behind, and we have to get things going here. So let's talk about one of our next favorite phones for the future, shall we? Let's talk about the Note 9 and the claims that it will be coming out in early August because it was forced to, and because there is a lot of competition coming up in terms of the iPhone, as is traditional because they always release late in the summer, but also because of Chinese pressures too, with Vivo, Oppo, and a whole bunch of them just putting out great international products and seeing what they can do. The Oppo Find X, the Vivo Nex, those have provided immense sales competition going on in the world. So I want to know what this Fortnite deal, this rumor of having Fortnite, it hasn't yet arrived on Android. It's on iOS. It's on all the other major platforms, but there's word that it might do so. It might make the splash onto Android with the Galaxy Note 9, and it will be exclusive for a month just to the Note 9. So I guess why don't you talk about this one, Jaime, first?
Oh my God! So I've got somebody called Sam. I don't know if you've seen his gaming videos on our Spanish channel. Shameless plug.
Well, I was trying to get to Sam, but apparently he has some work to do.
So Sam yesterday was like, dude, Fortnite is coming out on Android today. It's coming out on Android today, and he's like, out of the blue, we're working on the script for the daily and for the diario, and he's like, no. And I'm like, what's wrong, dude? And he's like, dude, we've got rumors that now it's going to be exclusive for the Note 9. Like, WTF? Like, I was expecting it today because he is like an anime. He will not touch an iPhone. Sam will not touch an iPhone. Like, he does not want to. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So I don't know, man. I think that it's an interesting strategy from Samsung. The rumors are that not only will the Fortnite be launched with the Note 9, that it will be exclusive, that we'll have Ninja, which is probably the most famous Fortnite player. He's going to be part of the announcement with Epic Games as well. I think it's a cool. Yeah, I think it's a cool strategy from Samsung. I'm sad for everybody, all of us using Android phones right now because Fortnite's like really cool. Like my son is stuck on that thing.
Wait, Ninja? You mean Kevin's gonna be on that thing?
No, not the Tech Ninja. Not my buddy. But yeah. So the rumor is that it will be exclusive. I hope not, but I doubt that it won't be. We've seen exclusives, like for example, the Razer phone launch with this with Final Fantasy. I forget which version.
15.
The desktop. Yeah, they launched with that, but it wasn't exclusive to the Razer phone. So
Super Mario Run was exclusive to the iPhone for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. There are a lot of apps and games out there that have been exclusive to the iPhone that eventually make Android. It's kind of the same thing in kind of a weird way. Kind of sucks, but kind of makes sense at the same time. I think it's great, honestly, because this is exactly the kind of stuff that I remember. Do you guys remember when we were first getting into the smartphone, like right before the smartphone era began? Companies like Samsung and LG would do partnerships with big names in order to sell their phones. And I used to be like heavily into Korean pop music, and this was back in like the early 2000s, and every new LG phone used to be exclusively sold with certain people and certain marketing and certain celebrities as like the marketing strategy. So I think this is a little bit in that vein, so it makes sense to me. I do like it. And mobile gaming is incredible now. Fortnite is just one example. I've been playing so many awesome games on the OnePlus 6 right now, but it's been a great time to be a mobile gamer lately.
No game will ever be as good as Teeter.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, whatever Teeter is.
But here's the thing. I don't think it's a smart strategy because I wish that they would launch, Fortnite that day. But then if you own a Galaxy Note 9, you'll get like an unlimited battle pass or whatever it is that you get, the perks that you get, just because you're a Note 9
bad
user.
idea.
I feel that would be better than having the game locked to just one phone.
And is it only the Note 9, or can it be like the way the Jay-Z album was, where it was every Samsung phone? Because if it's only the Note 9, will that actually make people buy a phone just for the game?
That and the fact, like, for example, shameless plug as well. I'm working on, for everybody that's been asking for After the Bus to return. It's returning with the Galaxy Note 8 this weekend. My God, like, this is not a phone for everybody. That's the other problem.
Yeah,
the Note is sadly not the phone for everybody. So you know, I don't know what's up, man. I don't think it's the best idea, but we'll see.
You know, it's
there's a whole bunch of. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, do you guys know how a phone identifies itself to a piece of software?
So I think through like serial numbers or through the Play Store at least, because I know that a lot of interaction goes through with the medium of the Play Store, and like there are certain white lists that things are. I mean, we talked about this with the VLC app with Huawei phones this week too, where they were banned from downloading the VLC app from the Play Store.
Well, yeah. What I was going to say is that there's a piece of software in every phone called build prop, and that it's kind of like a startup file for every phone that identifies the make and the model, the screen resolution, and all that kind of stuff. And in the past, it has been possible to edit your build prop. For example, to take your Samsung phone and say that it's a Nexus phone, so you get like new Google features earlier. So my guess is that once Fortnite is available, someone will extract the APK. All you got to do is change your build prop to say you have a Note 9, and then you can load it on. I mean, that's what's happened in the past.
XDA developers, man.
Yeah. I was about to say that is true XDA fashion right there.
It's easy stuff too. It takes Notepad and just very basic knowledge, but it's
you'll find that when the Galaxy Note 9 gets released, and then you get the how-to articles up, and then it'll be one of the most impressive things. It will be one of the most read things in the world by the time it goes out. I mean, we're talking about a company, Epic Games, that is behind Fortnite, and they're making hundreds of millions of dollars. They've been increasing their market share in terms of this game, and to not have it on the world's most popular mobile OS yet, that's going to be something to watch out for, to say the very least. So we'll keep our eyes on this one. In the meantime, we shall move forward and go to something that's also somewhat related to the Galaxy Note 9. There's been some speculation about revolving around the latest announcement from Samsung, this Unbreakable panel, one of those Super AMOLED screens, but instead of a glass cover surface that you have, as with most typical displays, you have plastic.
Ew.
Now, where have we seen plastic before?
Oh my God!
I know.
You guys don't want to see my Galaxy S8 Active, man. That thing looks terrible.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
It's the Moto Force, the Moto Z Force.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
The Moto Droid Turbo 2 was the first one that had that Shatter shield, and everyone was complaining about the scratchiness, how easily it was scratched, and they also had a little snafu in terms of the cover replacements, because you could get those liners replaced for a certain fee, and then they didn't offer it for the Z2 Force because it just wasn't economical, it seemed. So, yeah, I sense that you have a lot more to say about this, Brandon.
Oh, I mean the Moto Shatter Shield was just, if you looked, it's just not a good technology. Not only does it make the screen feel soft because it has like multiple layers of plastic, and not only is it more conducive to scratches, like super conducive to scratches, but it also is like having like 4 screen protectors on your screen. It blocks light. The colors aren't as vibrant on the display. It just makes for a lower quality display. And like, I don't know if you guys know people or yourselves have problem with shattering phone screens, but like most people I know are careful with their phones, or they use a case, and this isn't a problem. Like, why do we need plastic screens? We used to have plastic screens back in the day. They were terrible. They're also bad for touch response. That's the other thing. It reduces the sensitivity of the display, increases touch latency. Just overall, no for the plastic screen, please.
So from what I understood from the news, it was more like it's not a blend. I don't know if that's even possible, but it's not necessarily plastic. there are glass components, and apparently what you're going to be touching is glass. I actually covered it on the daily, just to, like recorded it like 30 minutes ago. But yeah, it's like if it's glass, but there are plastic components that allow it to be indestructible. For me, it's like, you know, for the things that I care about, which is what I touch, if that's glass, I'm all open for it. I mean, the biggest problem with Galaxy devices is this curve. You know, putting a case on it makes it even more difficult because the lip to protect the curve is more pronounced. So, you know, I find it to be such an irony for you to have such a thin and, you know, beautiful phone if you're going to have to be protecting it with a case. So for me, it would be great to have a phone that I would, you know, not have to protect. But I don't know, man. We'll see. I don't think the glass is the best solution for the backs, for example. So why don't you bring that whatever shatter shield material to the back instead, which is what's most breakable lately, and then, you know, the front leave it glass, or I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, indeed. Well, we just got 6, man. I should note that, yeah. The news article was based off of just the release. So any insight that you can provide, if it's from Samsung or from wherever else, I mean, that's appreciated. Joshua, I was wondering what your take on this story is.
I find it funny that our replacement screen's not a huge form of revenue for these companies. Like, what when they like, they want to capitalize on that? But if the screen looks good the way that a Super AMOLED should look, then I'm all for it. Like, it's fine. Like Brandon said, I am careful with my phones to the point where I've never really shattered one. I think I've only broken like one screen in my whole career. I've lost one phone and I've broken one phone. Like it's a pretty good record for a 6-year career so far.
That is a good record.
Yeah. So oh, and that also does not count drop tests. So let's just put that in a different category. But I love that they were talking about these drop tests. They did 26 consecutive drops from about 4 feet, and it's like, okay, 4 feet's fairly average, and that's fine. But of course, there are all of these different factors. You could say that a screen is unshatterable or whatever, unbreakable, whatever you want to talk, whatever you want to name it. But then you put it on a different type of concrete, a different type of flooring, a different type of jagged floor, and all of a sudden that thing becomes breakable. So I stop short of actually believing when claims like this happen, because there's always a way to break something. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we keep name dropping Zach Nelson of Jerry Rig Everything, but we need to have him on at some point just so that we can like get this all sussed out and talk about Mo's levels of material hardness, because
did you see the Fine 10 video he published? It was,
oh man, got destroyed.
Oh my god, that was so bad, man. And obviously Zach's jokes just make it even better.
Oh, there's so many jokes in that one. It's great.
Yeah, his delivery is just deadpan, serious, and hard on, kind of just boom, right in front of your face.
But I feel that Zach was just disappointed, like in a good way. Like he broke it, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't want to break you. Like, I'm sorry," because the innovation is great and the design is great, and I didn't want. Well, it broke.
Well, I mean, progress only gets you so far, right? Right. Well,
it's been really boring with phone durability tests. I mean, like almost every phone that he's tested in the last like 10 months has been fine, and it was kind of cool actually to see a phone be destroyed. I gotta admit.
Yeah, you got to get that shelf filled up. That shelf.
Yeah, the shelf of shame. Yep, that's right.
At some point. Just a comment quickly from the hashtag PN Weekly on Twitter. Renato Laporte, you can place a glass panel on top of the plastic panel. The thing is, with an OLED display now attached to that glass panel, it's easy to damage it when you drop the phone. So there are a lot of composition issues, and who knows if these companies will just add on a glass panel anyways to this, or at least Samsung, because they own the technology, you would presume. But who knows if they will put another glass panel on it just in case. So it'll be interesting. Joshua, I know that you kind of cynically talked about the kind of this revenue stream from replacement glass, but that may still be the case. So we'll have to see. Let us move on and talk about something that is the antithesis of a topic from last week. So last week we talked about the Light and the company, the upstart that had 16 cameras on its first smartphone, and that how it's going to change itself with computational photography and whatnot. So this time around, we're going to flip it to Sony, who has been very, very on it when it comes to image sensors for mobile phones. And they have just debuted the first 48 megapixel sensor, the smallest just ever, because that's how mobile phones work. And there's word that it might potentially reach us during CES 2019 with the Galaxy, not the Galaxy, the Xperia XZ3. So many names out there, can be confusing. So we have, given the size that we have here, I wish there was the picture here of the actual rulers that measured out this thing, but it's very small, and you're talking about fitting in 48 million pixels onto that space. There's bound to be some sort of loss that you're going to have, diminishing returns. So I'm wondering who's bracing for this the most. Joshua, would you like to start? Oh, you're interesting.
Go for it.
I don't know. Sony's always the one that says we've achieved this high megapixel count, and then you actually use the camera on their phones and it just doesn't turn out to be as awesome as they market it out to be. Obviously the sensor itself needs to have the right software backing it up, and that's when the sensor becomes part of other Android phones. But while I'm excited for the sensor itself, I'm not excited for the phone. It's been a while since I've been excited for an Xperia device. And yeah, some of my best memories were with Xperia phones early on, with the Xperia
X1 with the
that
R.
one was good too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was such
cool. That's a cool phone.
That was such a beautiful phone.
48 megapixels. I mean, I'm cool with that as long as I can see someone actually use it to some sort of amazing ability, like put that thing inside of a Pixel 4 or a Pixel 3 or something, like.
But this is the question that I have about this. When was the last time that Sony brought their best technology and launched it on an Xperia first? We know they don't.
Don't they try what about the first 4K screen?
Well, but the 4K screen was. But when I'm talking about imaging. It's their imaging technology never makes it to the Xperia's first. So my biggest guess, and because I did cover some rumors, So we've got 2 flagship phones that are coming up. We've got the iPhone 10 Plus, which there were weird rumors that mentioned triple cameras, might not. And then we've also got the Galaxy S10 Plus or Pro or whatever they're going to name that thing, which is also rumored to bring 3 cameras. Now, we know the amount of damage that the P20 Pro has done. That phone, there are things about that phone that are just really hard to compare with any other device out there.
And we have lost Jaime.
And there goes Jaime.
Well, I mean, I'll continue on his point because they are so. Let's think about what this P20 Pro has done. I mean, it was just that 140 megapixel sensor that our Adam Z. Lane found to have been really the difference maker in terms of providing so much sharp resolution and making sure that these pictures, no matter how far away they're taken or wherever they're taken, they come out clean, crisp, and better than even what the companion sensors have done.
Do you guys remember in certain TV shows and movies back in the 90s, back in the 80s, they would take a camera, like they were looking at like a robber or something, and then they would zoom in to like their eye, and then the detective would be like, depixelate, and it's perfectly clear.
Enhance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, enhance. Like that obviously didn't exist. I mean, you can't create data where there is none. But if the sensor was like a tremendous amount of megapixels, in theory that should be possible. If you take a 100 megapixel image of something and you zoom in, you should be able to get a tremendous amount of detail. So
you should.
Right? Like, I mean, it doesn't always work out so perfectly, but
exactly. That's what I was about to say. Is like, when has been the last time that you were able to do 100 crop into a smartphone picture and be completely satisfied with what you see?
that Nokia phone, the 41 megapixel one.
Oh, well, there are times when it has been pretty good, but it's not the most. It's not a commonality with smartphone cameras.
It's not like the movies yet.
Yeah, exactly. One thing that I wanted to mention real quick is I'm just looking at the spec sheet that is here, or just the spec table, or whatever you want to call it. There are two things that really catch my eye here. The front-facing camera can record 4K video, which I think is cool. I like that a lot. And if there's good stabilization and the lens is wide enough, because there's one thing I've realized about smartphone cameras. They're always just a tiny bit too narrow. They're never just wide enough, especially
they're always
front-facing
in that
cameras.
70-degree range. That's very stubborn.
Exactly. And then the other thing that I saw here is it's Android 8.0, and then below it says invalid Android Sony edition. Indeed, Sony. Indeed, it is invalid.
Well, I mean, we don't give enough credit to Sony for being such an innovator in terms of AOSP and whatnot. So, I mean, just to be fair, they are doing their part, but in terms of making their own little thing happen, it's not really working out. So, hopefully, things will change so much as the seasons and weather does. Hey, you can only hope, right?
Also a 1080p screen. So to Jaime's point, like the technology that they try to put out often doesn't even make it into their own phones. So
no. How far did you guys hear me, by the way?
you were expounding on the P20 Pro, and then you just someone unplugged you.
Okay. So what I was trying to say is, I don't think Sony's going to launch that on an Xperia. I think that that whenever these companies make these announcements, OEMs have been playing with this hardware for a while. We are set for an iPhone 10 Plus launch. We're set for a Galaxy S10 launch. I mean, I think that these companies, like another Huawei phone with that amount of technology in the camera can make even more damage. So I'm thinking that probably Sony will just give this technology to their partners, which is what they usually do.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to see what happens with that as we move along here. Let's talk about, let's stick with Jaime for a second, because I think there's a resolution to one of the previous problems that we've faced with the MacBook Pro 2018, and that is with macOS High Sierra version 10.13.6. Finally, some resolution on the throttling issues in terms of handling third-party applications and seeing how they handle under excessive heat, or just being able to actually work properly in terms of making the Intel Core processor run, and also just keeping it cool. So talk to us a little bit about that, and what your revised assessment, if you have one, is.
No, I'm still not buying it. I'm still waiting for the next generation. I pretty much stuck with a 5-year-old computer up until the 3rd generation of the current MacBook Pro just because of that. So just a heads up, there is a fix admitted to macOS High Sierra. Apple made a statement where they discovered that there was a key within the firmware that wasn't allowing the computer to cool down correctly, and so they sent out the update, and they also sent an apology, because obviously you spent $3,000 at least on this computer. So
it's so funny. The funny thing is, Apple could have said anything and you would have believed it. They could have said the flux capacitor had a crack in it. and
we're no longer in 1985, man.
You would have been like, okay, they fixed, there's a software update.
But no. I just listen. Apple is just so bad about experimenting with technology. Oh my God, they're slow to adopt. Like, we're still using 3 gigs of RAM on the iPhone 10, man. Seriously, I do understand that they make very lean software. I get that. But that doesn't give them an excuse to cheap out on specific things just to be able to make an extra profit. I get it. You don't need the best and the latest specs. But, whenever you do, don't screw it up.
Yeah. To that point that you made, Brandon, I've seen plenty of interviews featuring Tim Cook, and I've seen how sometimes his eyes pop out, and I'm just imagining him saying "Great Scott" while he does that. So thanks for putting that image in my head.
Great.
Man, that is crazy. All right, so finally, in this part of the show, at least, we're going to talk about the Nokia 9, and it's done a great job so far. This HMD, this global company that's trying to get the phone out again in terms of the Nokia brand. And how do you guys feel about $1,000 phone from this company? Because here's the thing. They do fast Android updates. They do clean Android in general in terms of the look and feel. And really, it's just the hardware that's going to be making the difference here. And what we're learning from recent Shatter, I'm not going to give it too much credence here, but it's going to look a lot like the Nokia 8 Scirocco, which we played with at MWC. It was a very fine looking phone, very premium feeling phone. That was approximately $700-$800. So I guess there is a justification to maybe move it up to that $1,000 mark. But then again, you're playing with the iPhone 10 here, and you're playing with the next generation iPhone 10, whatever the heck it's going to be called. So what do you think? Let's start off with you, Brandon.
I think I've never used any modern Nokia phone that runs Android, so I really don't have an opinion. I mean, the 8 Scirocco I think looks really nice on paper. The specifications look awesome. I just think it's a really beautiful looking device. But like, have you guys used any of these newer Nokia phones?
Not on, not on the regular.
Not really, and none of them are expensive. That's the thing. So
Right.
I don't think I think the product is a possibility, but like their selling point, like Nokia has a
Oh, Jaime.
God, I hate this. All right, guys. I'm
So
done.
you remember the days? You remember the days?
I'm running out of patience with this connection, guys. We are jumping between 3 hotspots and Wi-Fi. It is just bad.
Oh my god!
All right, finish your point, and then I'll say goodbye to you and Brandon.
It's just they're not going to launch an expensive phone. Strategy they've been selling well. It's pointless.
Yeah, it's a weird off the cuff strategy for HMD at this point. I have back over here, the Nokia 6.1, and it's a very premium, heavy feeling phone. I haven't been able to put in a SIM card for it yet, but I like it. It's run smooth, much unlike some of the Snapdragon 400, even the updated 450 chip with that like new fabrication, that 14 nanometer fabrication that's supposed to be more efficient and more. It still chokes. So having that over there and making sure that it runs perfectly, that stock Android is there and it's lovely. Like I found it pretty good, especially at that sub $300 price point. So maybe would I want to see it scaled up to that kind of premium level? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that is the ethos of this current generation of Nokia. But then again,
you got to make it count, though. Like that's the problem. Just like we were saying last week, that what would a Microsoft Android phone look like? Well, it'll look like an Android phone. And that's basically what it is. You got to give it something that is actually different. Note 9 will have at least the S Pen, and other phones have like wide angle lenses or different lenses or something like that. Something that actually sort of makes that price point make sense. And if this Scirocco $1,000 phone is just going to be just like a really sleek design, I'm sorry, but that's not going to be enough. Though I will say this. Nokia throwing in their hat into the $1,000 premium price point tier, like it kind of makes sense to me because they want to like keep up with the Joneses in a way, but the consumers are not going to buy into it just because it's an expensive phone. I've heard people say, I've had debates like this with people where they said, if I have the ability to buy a more expensive phone, I'm going to get it because that price point makes me feel like I'm actually paying for something that is premium. But in this case, I'm going to hesitate to say it would be.
Yeah, and there's been some hesitation in terms of its approach to Android phones too. I mean, we've seen the getting in the door strategy of remixing a couple of old Nokia phones of the glory days, such as the 3310, the 88, 8100, the Matrix phone, banana phone, whatever you want to call it. Right. So, and there's only so far that you can get with that kind of strategy. It's been good for Nokia so far. But again, it's just about that mileage. And you have to make sure that at some point, even though these are pretty good stable of Android phones, you have to make sure that your product, there's a flagship product that stands on its own. So that's the tightrope that is being played here. I want to thank Brandon Miniman for joining us for the time that he could. It's been a pleasure. And hey, maybe we should make this a little bit more often should you come in.
Hey, let's do this again sometime, okay?
We shall see you later. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. See you guys.
See ya.
Yeah.
And
Dude, I'm gonna jump off as well. Like this is the worst. I apologize.
yeah, I was about to say
it's getting worse. So I need to figure out what's up with the ISP.
definitely. Jaime, have a few more beers for me and for Joshua,
That's
and
unsafe.
you have a great weekend. Yes,
That's unsafe
yes,
with the amount that I've already had.
Well, make sure at the very least you enjoy it.
See you guys. Take care.
See ya.
There, dude.
Bye.
All right.
Right. So it's
And
just
then number 2.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which one to go first? Maybe there'll be like a freak thunderstorm coming in, and it'll be all right, and then you'll be the last one standing.
Oh, I'm totally available for whatever we need coming up. It's a good thing that we got the hot takes out of the way, so we do have a couple of the broader topics coming up, or broader, or the deeper dive topics. I don't know what term you want to use.
Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be about how much people are going to be willing to pay for their phones. Now, if you thought that the iPhone 10 was that budget stretching, that wallet sucking monster that it was at $999 or $1,149 if you bought the 256 gigabyte version, well, just you wait, because we're in the middle of a trade war. If you haven't noticed, we got this whole President Trump ethos of making deals, and if not, walking away and saying, screw you, everyone, I'm going home. Here's a bunch of tariffs. You go deal with that. And also just a whole bunch of politicking around it in terms of farm deals, agriculture, and whatnot. But we're going to focus on tech because that's what we do here. So recently, we saw a couple of products from Apple, including the Apple Watch, the original Apple Watch at least. So not even the Series 1, as Apple might have characterized it, but just like the Apple Watch Sport, Apple Watch Edition, Apple Watch. If you remember those names, then there you go. We also have a few Fitbits on this list. And apparently all these products that we're talking about here are going to be affected because they come under a tariff category that's going to be considered for additional tariffs, anywhere from 10%, as we've seen with aluminum and steel, up to 25% for other things. I think those would be for the agricultural products. But again, there's a sliding scale. It's on a determined basis for each category. And we should expect more phones, more products, more laptops even, to come under this very strict regime as we go into the next couple of months as these tariffs get approved, barring any situation changing in terms of the trade picture with China. So
I love that
this is a frustrating thing.
It is, and I love that we have been singing the praises of Chinese phones, at least to some extent, over the last couple of years. And clearly, these trade wars and these tariffs have been ongoing, but it only becomes a huge problem once you put names like Apple and Fitbit behind it. And now people are talking about it, and it's just like, well, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, like, the U.S. already is not able to enjoy something like the P20 or the P20 Pro because of stuff like this, because of the American, let's say, the skeevishness,
the pride.
Yeah, the pride, but also the skeevishness that they have around security. And then on top of that, you throw these tariffs on top, and now the market just ends up suffering for it. And then it's only when an incumbent, it's only when something that is very established in our ecosystem, like Apple, when they get affected, that's when everybody jumps up in arms. And that's the funny thing to me.
Yeah, it precludes a lot of Chinese business from being done with the United States. We've already been talking about with cybersecurity concerns about these telecom providers, these Huawei, ZTE, and whatnot, getting just done by national intelligence directors. And it's been this crazy thing. They were even talking about there was a White House plan or some sort of national security plan, but that was related to the White House. That meant nationalizing the 5G network of this nation here. So that's how kind of conspiratorial this whole play against China has been. And then you talk about, well, these Chinese businesses like Oppo, Vivo, Xiaomi, they want to expand across the globe, and they can't get into the U.S. market, which is the toughest to crack for these types, because
Yeah.
first of all, again, that skeevishness that you've pointed out, but also just the fact that it's they're too used to Apple and Samsung, and those are the two names that you have heard, because LG ranks a distant third in our market at like a 17 or like 15% or something like that, and then Motorola would be next at single digits. How are they going to expect to compete, first of all, in an unlocked market that still has yet to really develop, and with carrier partnerships, especially with that whole cybersecurity thing? Because we know we talked about that Huawei Mate 10 Pro getting at the last minute ditched by AT&T and Verizon.
Exactly.
It's just been crazy. So
yeah, there's so many different factors that lie into this, and one thing that I will say for the general consumer out there who is really into these ecosystems, Fitbit, Apple, Sonos, all of these things that are very clearly stated to be part of these tariffs, or at least affected by these tariffs. Now you know why you're paying so much for your tech. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the reasons, and it's crazy that now we can actually point, because I remember when $1,000 started to be the breaching point for some of these smartphones, we would point at that and be like, why is this happening? And like, we're really upset about it. Now we kind of are being given a bit of a reason, and it's not a good reason at all. So what I would say to a lot of consumers out there, if you're upset about these tariffs causing this massive price increase for all of your phones and whatnot, if you are the kind of person that likes to get the new phone every single year, I'm going to reiterate, it seems like the magic number has been 7 for a lot of these phone lines. If you happen to have any phone after the 7th generation of the iPhone, the Samsungs, or even the LGs at this point, like, you're probably okay. Like, you don't have to feel pressure to actually pay this massive amount of money to get this phone, which is getting affected by so many different things. It becomes so expensive that you have to take out a freaking mortgage to get one.
yeah, that's
So I would
T-Mobile.
Our smartphones are getting
go
better.
ahead.
Our smartphones are getting better, and because they're getting so much better, you can actually it would be worth it for you to at least not go to another generation, or at least you don't have to feel pressured to have to jump to this latest generation and spend all that money. That's all I'm saying.
I will remind the listener here that T-Mobile only covers the first $720 in any equipment installation plan. After that, you have to pay that as a down payment. AT&T, Verizon, those are the big guys, and they seem to be able to finance all the total price for their thing. So, I mean, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the situation as we go forward. Eventually, you're going to see that there's some price point, be it the $45 per month mark or something like that. That's going to be really just, I don't want to pay that for 2 years. So
Yeah,
we'll have to see about that. Yeah. And there's also the fact that ZTE finally has some recourse in the United States, because not only has it started to get out of those punishments that it incurred while it was accused of breaching U.S. trade sanctions with North Korea and Iran, businesses over there. They're finally getting out of that, and there was a fear for a time that they would come under effect of a national defense bill where they would be blocked. The defense contractors, which are pretty much plenty of companies that you already know in the United States, but they would be banned from working with ZTE or Huawei in terms of that, getting supplies, products, and whatnot. So that's all done, and ZTE seems to be at some clearing point, at some sort of end of the tunnel. Can we finally talk about the Axon 9? Because that has been one of the Axon 7 was one of the most lauded upon mid-rangers of 2016 in terms of what it brought for audio, in terms of this relatively conservative approach to Android. It was 2016, so that was still relatively conservative. And then they were also committing themselves to cleaner Android runs, starting with Oreo, which was supposed to come at the early part of this year. And now we're kind of left picking up the pieces. ZTE is, at least, but we're wondering what the heck to expect at this point. I mean, how do you see this, Josh?
I think that ZTE is one of those companies that I have a love-hate relationship with because, like, I give them a lot of props for trying to innovate. Like, remember the Axon M, and yes, the Axon 7 was a very decent device, especially at the time. And I would be excited to see what comes next after all these sanctions had occurred. But the thing is, will they even have the ability to produce? Because I'm looking at this article and I'm just saying that sanctions would be lifted if the Chinese company would agree to pay a $1 billion penalty,
and they have they've paid up and
yeah.
So and they have a good amount in terms of reserves. Yeah,
exactly. So there was that, and also a large amount of time that ZTE was not able to perform trades or to do shipments of their parts and whatnot. So there's a ton of money that has been lost because of all of this, because of this skeevishness. If that's like the show title now, the skeevishness. But
the Skeevishness Weekly.
But basically, I would be interested to see what their next move would be in terms of what their next device would be, but I just don't see it happening for a while they recover from all of this. And I mean, who knows what it would be, and who knows what it could look like. Maybe it'll come out in China and we'll get some sort of look at that. But as far as it coming here to the US, I think it's going to take a while for them to have the resources and the ability to be able to do so comfortably.
Moved, and they could be gone as well, because those punishments could come back into effect if they seem to do a move that the U.S. Commerce Department doesn't like, or perhaps it's just going to be those tariffs that just nail them in. You
know what? I'm not going to get political at all, but and this is very doomsday in a way, like it's very negative of me to say. But honestly, ZTE unfortunately might just become one of those companies that is a scapegoat. And if there are ever any problems between the U.S. and China, ZTE might unfortunately be one of those companies that ends up getting the brunt of the crap that the U.S. and
So at this point, I'm not sure if Josh has frozen or if I have frozen, and I'm not sure if we've been traveling in time for a few minutes or a few seconds at least. Just wondering.
Am I not there right now?
I think we're back, or okay. I think either of us are back, but I'm not sure.
You were perfectly fine for a good portion of that there. But basically, what I was saying, I don't know how far I got in that. It's just I'm just afraid that ZTE might become one of those Chinese companies that is a scapegoat for the U.S. government and for the U.S. Economy. You know, like if the U.S. and China trade wars end up becoming like a very long form thing, then ZTE just might become another scapegoat in the whole thing. These things can happen again, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have aspirations. It's good to have phones that you want to look up to and to grab. But in terms of being able to pay for them and seeing that slip away farther and farther every new cycle where, one reason or another, you won't be able to get this phone in your lifetime. Well, yeah. It's just unfortunate. And
I'll tell you one thing: when the Axon, whatever the case may be, next phone comes out, we'll have like an internal celebration of sorts and be like, "Hey, cool! Like it's finally back! Yay!"
We'll be cheersing on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Finally, this hour, let's take some bets here. So Android P, the 5th developer preview, the last developer preview has been released, and we should expect it to come out in the next month, the final version of Android P. We don't have a final name yet. We do know it's going to be Android 9.0, but as far as any internal documents or internal sourcing goes on, all we have had is pistachio ice cream, at least in the long name. And then there was also pistachio, which was used in a Huawei customer service transaction in, I think, Poland. So that's where we have our sourcing going on here.
Look how far we
what do you
go
think?
just to figure out what this stuff might be. By the way, just one quick thing. I do want to give a shout out to the live chat. I have been monitoring it, and just letting you guys know. It's not that we don't read the live chat. I've been reading it this entire time. It's just that whenever a tiny little question might come up in the chat, our conversation kind of naturally addresses it. So I'm sorry if I haven't called anybody out real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chat has been ongoing. There were a couple of them that I wanted to call out, and then we ended up saying it anyway on air. Okay, so as far as what Android P might be called, why is pistachio like the front runner? Like I always thought pancake was going to be one of them, and then just as a Filipino, there's a little Filipino dessert called polvoron that I would love for it to be.
Yeah.
So for my Filipino demographic here, like, you know, in the Philippines, Android P is polvoron. We're just all going to agree.
You're just going to agree that that's it. And you'll, like, whatever the official name is, you're probably just going to fly to San Francisco, tear down the fiberglass statue, and then build one of your own. And
Put up a polvoron, a huge polvoron Android. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, the Filipino gorillas will be taking over, and that will be it at Mountain View. Like, that's it. I mean, if it were up to me, I would definitely consider pancake. I actually haven't thought of any answer myself. I was just busy just trying to like put together, okay, so there's this and there's that, and I have not taken the time to actually think, what have I wanted? For me, this is kind of a Pannen, which in German means blooper, because I can't think of anything right now, so I have failed miserably as a host in this aspect. But you know what, pistachio's okay. I like pistachio ice cream. I don't know why. Well, it's green, the nut is green, and so that's why the ice cream itself is green. But it's still kind of weird to see green ice cream if it's not mint. I don't know, that's just me. Anyways.
Just to further prove the point that we read the chats, one of them says, well, I mean, okay, you can have your opinions about Android all you want, but there is one person that said Android poop. I was like, why? You know? Oh, peppermint was another one too.
Peppermint.
I was thinking of peppermint. I do think that pancake makes a lot more sense. But whatever it might be, what was it? Was it popsicle one also? But that's not really a pastry.
Popsicle, yeah, that's not really a pastry. It's a dessert. It's a treat. It's a, you know, one of those sweet things. But I mean, I did hear about that once. What was the peppermint is? Well, I think, well, if you were to go with the poop emoji, because technically that's supposed to be a chocolate ice cream cone top. Like, I think that would work out in some sort of demented way, but hey.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what would look good as a statue, I think, should be part of the question, right? Because I think a pancake would be easy. I think a popsicle would be easy. I think peppermint might be a little tough. Like, what would you put? Peppermint candy? You know, it's
candy cane.
Exactly. So, but that's why I think pancake is probably the one that makes the most sense, because it's just a big round circle that looks a lot like the Oreo statue, and then it's just a lighter shade of brown.
And you could probably just don't remind us. But you could probably even like put on a couple of toppings too. If you, I mean, that's what the Oreo thing looks like. Not the Oreo thing. I was thinking about the Oreo O logo that they had for Android before it was Oreo. It was just the yellow O and the white circle in the center. This one's a P, which is, you know, kind of, it looks like a candy cane shape with the lowercase p, and it has that striping in the center. So maybe I think it would make sense to go with peppermint. I think that's going to be my official bet. $20.
Peppermint. Okay, fair. All right, I'll put 20 down for pancake personally.
Right.
But
we'll shake on it and we'll agree, and then whenever it happens, then we'll be paying out.
There we go. One of our commenters said Pinocchio. I'm like, what are you eating?
Yeah, I mean, high fiber. That's all I'm going to say.
High fiber.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Well,
speaking of words that start with P, yes, I am still rocking my Pebble. One of the commenters did say that, but we're not going to talk about that. But I will say, let's get the naming right. This is no longer called a Pebble. This is called a Rebel. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it has been called a Rebel. Yep. Made from the offshoot of Pebble. Credit to Fitbit for keeping things going as long as they have been, and allowing the courtesy of being able to offload this service, the services side of things.
Oh my gosh!
So,
one more comment just came in: peanut butter.
Yeah, I mean, well, peanut butter will be the more kind of visible, visceral kind of thing that you could see and touch and feel instead of peanut butter. Unless you want to go with like PB and J,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that'd be interesting. But hey, we'll have to see. Hey, it's been a nice show, and it's been a nice week. I feel like, and hopefully you'll be able
I'm
to
glad
relax.
I was. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that I was here to back it up when the other two who were I'm the guest, and it's so funny because the two other hosts like bailed.
Yeah. For one reason, I mean,
here.
I mean, I can't fault them for not leaving already. So, I mean,
Oh, it's
there
fine.
you go.
I just think it's really funny because like I'm having fun guesting on here as much as I am, and then it's just funny that both Jaime and Brandon had to bounce. God bless them. But you know what? Again,
It started late.
yeah, I agree. We did start a little bit late. That was my fault. My setup had some
Oh, it was
troubles.
everyone's fault. Let's not get. Let's share the blame on this one because I feel
Fair
like,
enough.
yeah, it's there's one reason or another, and I'm not going to debate what those reasons are. Ah, man. Well, finally, we have an announcement to make, and I'm excited to be a part of it. From next week, we will have a new host for this show that we've loved putting on for you since 2012. This will be one of many changes to come. We certainly expect for the better, with the goals of giving you more perspective on the ever-evolving mobile landscape, as well as just us letting loose and having fun and making sure that you are too. I've been very proud to oversee the weekly for the past 4 years. I am grateful to be able to continue to oversee the weekly for the episodes to come. But as you might have guessed, I took on this temporary hosting position with the intention of it being temporary. Since the departure of Juan Carlos Bagnell, who we have nothing but respect for, I kept the lights on and made sure that we had an interesting show every week. So we've gone through the highs, the lows, together in a very short span. But I pray that I've done my job of entertaining you. It was a privilege to serve the audience, that's you, directly for the past several weeks. You will know who the new host is by next Friday. They are very capable, very gregarious, and have very good ideas for how we will evolve this show for the times to come. As we say in our industry, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up. Be sure to keep the conversation going by emailing us, podcast@pocketnow.com. We would really like to get questions you need answered. Also, we are all on Twitter with the hashtag PNWeekly. You can reach Brandon Miniman at Brandon Miniman. Joshua Vergara is at JVTechT. That's a T with the drinking. And then you have Jaime Rivera at JAIME_RIVERA. I'm on Twitter at PointJules. Pocket Now is at Pocket Now on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and YouTube in both English and Espanol, where you can find more news on the Pocket Now dairy. You can drink milk with that dairy. Pocket Now Daily and Pocket Now a Diario every weekday. We also have a lovely site, pocketnow.com, for all your mobile tech needs. We certainly appreciate reviews and ratings on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, wherever you happen to be streaming us, because without them, wouldn't have been. On behalf of the team here, I'm Jules Wong. Let's meet again real soon.